Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well today. Shout out to all the subscribers as always. Thanks a lot for tuning in and much love to anyone new. Gratitude. Let's talk about Canelo's situation and let's talk about the potential fights lined up and what you guys want to see. I'll express what I would like to see on what's on the table. Now obviously in terms of him leaving the PBC, it's heavily rumored. I don't know if he has actually left officially yet, but it does look as if he's out the door there. That's a bit concerning for them. It's a bit happy for Eddie Hearn. I'm sure he'll be delighted. He's already alluded to having something special lined up in May. Now, when you talk about promoters consistently, being a good business partner, and I know they Canelo parted ways, supposedly for more money and stuff like that. That happens, that's business. But because of the partnership they did have, it's quite easy to slot back in and pick up where they left off because of how he was treated. It's pretty obvious and pretty plain to see that Canelo felt like he was really well treated. Now, why did he leave? I guess probably because of money, right? But nonetheless, that's, if you try and find out other promoters who can do this outside of the Saudis, which Canelo hasn't been to yet, he hasn't been involved in there yet, but Eddie Hearn is certainly a gateway to that. It does look likely that Eddie Hearn is going to pick up the pieces with Canelo and maybe get him a fight in May, which is probably going to be either Jaime Mungia or Edgar Berlanga. Now, I personally wouldn't want to see the Berlanga fight just yet. I think just yet it's a bit early for him, and I think Canelo, for me personally, I would really want, it hasn't been a while since I've been really excited for a Canelo fight where, I think maybe the Bivol fight, and I picked Bivol to win that fight, to be honest with you. And obviously it was fairly one-sided for Bivol. So I think Canelo, with such a big stage and so many eyes on it, I think it's important that him, if he wants to maintain and be that face of boxing, that he has something for the fans to really get into. And I think right now, personally, the Mungia fight is probably that. And now, I'm not saying it would be competitive, but it would be entertaining. And it would be a pretty epic build-up. Obviously, Mungia, Mexican. So I'm sure that will play a part because of the whole Canelo not fighting Mexicans, but maybe not. I think ultimately, it's an exciting fight. Mungia is never not in an exciting fight. He always comes to fight. His defense seems to not be part of his game. He loves to fight. He comes on the front foot and he can bang. In his last few fights, he obviously stopped John Ryder. He was in I wouldn't say life and death, but a very entertaining punch up with Derevyanchenko. And I expect him to be, somewhat competitive in stages against Canelo. I think it probably could be one of those one-sided competitive fights. I don't think he'll be able to put too many hands on Canelo, but it might seem like he's in the mix, at least creating some action. And he's got a chin as well. And he's going to need that because, Canelo's obviously a supreme counterpuncher. It'd be interesting to see who's going to do what, because Canelo typically, as good of a counterpuncher he is, he likes to come forward and apply that front foot intelligent pressure with the active high guard where he can counterpunch you with slick, sharp, hard shots. He's a tremendous fighter. He really is. And I think that is actually a pretty good fight in terms of who's available. Now, obviously, David Benavidez. All of us want to see that fight. I was watching the Boxing Voice earlier this morning, and Nestor Gibbs had a very interesting video, a breakdown of the contracts, and he was basically suggesting that Canelo hasn't been ducking Benavidez per reading these contracts that were supposedly had Benavidez in there, and it was Al Heyman's slip up that didn't get the fight and blah blah blah. I'm not very good at dissecting all of this stuff. I will leave the link for you guys. You can watch it yourself. I'll leave the timestamp when it's right at the beginning of the video. If you're one of those boxing fans that likes to get into the details of the sport, the business side, I can speak on the business side a little bit, but to be honest with you, the fight's not happening, so I don't really care that much. I'll care when it gets made, but if you are interested, that's great. I'll leave the link again. You can check it out because it was going through the wordage of how apparently Benavidez was penciled in for September. So, obviously I was one of them saying, look, Canelo's blatantly ducking Benavidez. But you know, I've also been one that goes very light on people ducking. But when it comes to the point where, you know, he's been a mandatory for so long, and it's just blatantly obvious that he's ducking him, then it's worth calling out. But after watching that video, it certainly, you know, made me think a little bit. So Berlanga, let me know if you think Berlanga should fight him next, or do you think, obviously Berlanga, for me, he just come off a pretty good knockout. I haven't seen the full fight, I saw the highlights. I will catch up that fight soon, but let's be honest, that's not competitive, and I don't think either would that be that entertaining. I don't think Berlanga, I know he's got the power, but he's a little too predictable with his power, because he does try to just go for that one shot. Now, maybe he's worked on that in the last fight, so maybe I'm speaking out of term until I watch that fight. But typically before that, he's come in and he looks like he's got his paw up like this. He looks like he's ready to send that right hand in. You know, he's got a tremendous right hand. He really does. But I would expect him to box off the back foot. I really would. I know he did it against Angulo, and Angulo was putting a lot of pressure on him. I would expect the same thing, and I would expect him to be in a bit of survival mode, being on that stage against such an elite fighter like Canelo. And, you know, that could make for a duller fight, really. But if Berlanga gets another win under his belt, to be honest with you, I know Gabe Rosado's retired, but it's the fight I was calling for a while ago, where I was like, you know, they should fight each other. When Gabe Rosado was right on the cusp, maybe he just retired, or maybe he was just before. Look, both Puerto Ricans, right? Shout out to the Puerto Ricans. I've got a track for you that I made at the end of this video. Stay tuned for that. But I was like, you know what, East Coast, Gabe Rosado's, I think he's from Philly, right? Yeah, he's definitely from Philly. New York, Philadelphia, they could do that at the Garden, maybe the theatre, pack it out, get some buzz, get a good fight, and if Berlanga gets a good wind under his belt, because Rosado's, you know, they've had a little bit of beef recently.
I'm sure you still got a fire in you. Could we see you in a fight with Berlanga?
Well, yeah, we'll see what's up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he was talking real greasy, talking about we next or whatever, but look, man, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
There's no reason why he can't come back, I think. You know, I think that's an interesting fight. And, you know, if you look at the landscape at 168, who else is Berlanga going to fight? He's not going to fight David Morrell. He's probably not going to fight the top guys at Benavidez, Caleb Plant, obviously Canelo. But we're talking about how to match him up before that. Then you've got Mbele. That's a dangerous fight. If you're Eddie Hearn, you don't want to really have anything to slip up I think Rosado's a perfect opponent if he's willing to do it, because it is that experience, it is that name, and it will be entertaining because Rosado comes to fight. I know he's been a bit more cagey recently, as you'd expect, but I think the build-up will be good. There's already a bit of natural beef there. And look, I love Gabe Rosado. I've been a massive Gabe Rosado fan. I made a video about him called The Dying Breed, which is, I've done a few episodes on those where it's just about fighters that I really like. In here, you know, I'm a big advocate of fighters with heart and courage and be the best that they can be. And Paulie Malignaggi was one too. And the Breadman Edwards, I did one on him as well. I've got another one to go on Bud Crawford, probably Errol Spence, probably Tim Tszyu. You know, guys that are Jabatai, like they just get the best out of themselves and they get the best for the sport. That's what I love. It makes the sport so much better. So, anyway, I'm getting excited with just the thought. I think that's an interesting fight if they did. Berlanga, let's just say in June, you know, Puerto Rican Day Parade is what, the 8th or the 9th? That would be massive. And then Canelo just fought in May, set up a big fight in September. If he beats Mungia, I mean, that's what Hearn will be looking at, I think. He's already ahead of the curve, Eddie Hearn is. He really is. And he's going to slowly work some magic on the East Coast. He's slowly understanding the brand. He's slowly understanding the temperature of New York. And he's starting to home in on it. We got Subriel Matias, Edgar Berlanga, like I said. They bring in the Irish fans. I think he's really, like, you know, learned a lot. And I've mentioned this a couple times. And I think it's great for the sport. It's great for, you know, New York as well. Put us back on the map. Anyway, look, that's it for me. I'd love to know your thoughts on this Canelo situation. Who would you like him to fight? Is there anybody else at 168? Obviously there are, but what makes sense right now, David Morrell, I'd love to see that fight, but let's be honest, he doesn't really deserve that just yet. Berlanga probably doesn't quite. I think Mungia is probably the best fit for me. May, get me a bit more excited. I think the build-up would be good, and I think the fight would be exciting. See you later. That's it from me. Oh, before I go, I made this track on Subriel Matias. It's an old video, but this beat will be available on my Bandcamp. If you want to purchase this, I will have it up. Next time I do a Subriel Matias video, I'll finish this beat because I haven't finished it yet. But anyway, I've got like this boxing beat maker channel, so this is part of it. See you later.
Now listen to me very carefully.
Porque cuando tú estás seguro
I'm a terminator.
de lo que tú das y tú eres, no le temes a los riesgos.
Hailing from Fajardo, Puerto Rico.
Porque cuando tú estás seguro
A machine.
When you're sure what you know that you have, the skill that you have, then you take the fight.
porque cuando tú estás seguro de lo que tú das y tú eres, no le temes a los riesgos.
El orgullo de Maternillo, Subriel Matias.
I'm a terminator.
There's a big left hook and that puts him down. Matias finally gets the knockdown here.
There's a left hook and down goes Yukebayev. Oh my goodness.
Porque cuando tú estás seguro de lo que tú das y tú eres, no le temes a los riesgos.
Listen to me very carefully. I'm a terminator.
And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner. Wearing gray trunks with yellow trim, hailing from Fajardo, Puerto Rico. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the hard-hitting IBF #2 world-ranked 140-pound contender, introducing El Orgullo de Maternillo, Subriel Matias.
Now listen to me very carefully.
Porque cuando tú estás seguro de lo que tú das y tú eres, no le temes a los riesgos.
I'm a terminator. I'm a terminator.
There was a lot of risk in taking this fight. Why did you do it?
Había muchos riesgos en esta pelea. ¿Por qué tomaste la pelea?
Porque cuando tú estás seguro de lo que tú das y tú eres, no le temes a los riesgos.
Is that when you're sure what you know that you have, the skill that you have, then you take the fight.